I was just talking about this. I was like, I fail constantly. I really do. And sometimes it's really big and sometimes it's small, but to me, there's no success without the failure, and again, why that may sound cliche is like I go looking for it. If I haven't done enough to make me trip and fall, then I'm not moving fast enough. And I find that every time that I push myself really hard, I'm bound to fall down. Like, you should just do it scared. Go for it anyway. Fail fast, and then get up and recover. Because for me, again, it's like if I'm not doing that, then I'm not taking big enough risks. I don't want to live in a safe space. I don't want to be just chilling, comfortable. The only way that I'm going to be great is if I am pushing farther and pushing harder. And with that means that sometimes it's going to be a cliff at the end of that and I'm going to fall over.
Hey, Justin, what's up,
man?
baby?
How you doing?
I'm good, man. What up, y'all? It's your boy G-Man from a G and a Pimp. Justin the lawyer, one of my favorite public speakers. I always talk about you. I brag about you, man. I know about your public speaking. I love the way you speak, man. So, hey, man, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, man. Don't put that pressure on me right now, man.
I know.
Oh, God, man. I'm going to have to go back and get some more coffee now. We say that, and especially after listening to her. David Lee's always going up, she was talking about, I don't want to live in a safe zone. I want to run scared. Like, man, I can totally relate to that. Especially, with the topic today, man. We're talking about executive summaries, which most people would probably see as the elevator pitch. I know you pitched a few people, right?
Oh yeah, and I get a lot of pitches too. So
yeah. And I think what happens with a lot of people is they, they're afraid to shoot their shot, which is really all a pitch is. You got to just kind of get out there and ask. And I remember when I was a sales manager, man, I would interview people and they had these questions that they gave me. It's like this thick, like binder, which was kind of like, these are the questions you ask people when you're interviewing. Of course, I added a couple, G, and I was like, one of them was, okay, so you go to a party and there's a bunch of, it was guys. If it was a guy or if it was a woman, man or woman or whatever, I'd ask her. So it's a bunch of people, attractive people or whatever on the other side of the party or whatever. Do you go up and ask one of them to dance? And the person, would say yes, or they'd say no. But if they said yes, I would say, okay, and you go up and ask that person to dance and they tell you no. What do you do now?
That was my worst fear. I never did it. I think I did it once and I got turned down once and I never did it again. That was my worst fear.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, actually I did it twice. Once I got turned down, the other time she said yes. But other than that, I never did it. I just always just kind of stayed to myself, man. I was always just watching. But I admired people who actually did that because, hey, all they can do is say no, and then you never know. That one person could say yes, that'd become your wife.
Yeah, and I guess that's one way to look at it. I was always sort of the mindset that no was the first step to hearing yes.
Oh yeah.
And if you got enough no's, that statistically the chances of you hearing no forever, like it just doesn't work that way. It's like flipping a coin. You're going to get heads. Eventually you're going to get tails. And I'm not saying it's 50% like it is with a coin, but if you shoot your shot, eventually somebody's going to say yes. And that's the way it works with an elevator pitch. The problem with the elevator pitch is you don't get the opportunity to walk across that room and ask every single person if they want to dance. And sometimes there are certain people in the room that are better people to shoot your shot at, right? So, let's face it, that's the way the elevator pitch needs to be done is like, you got to go at somebody that gives you the highest probability of success. I know you invested in some, like you had some businesses before. Like what kind of stuff have you done personally from an investment standpoint?
When I built my house that I'm in now, I remember talking to the general contractor and I was like, man, how much does it cost for this? And he's like, oh, it's going to be this much, or how much for crown molding and how much and I just started thinking, I was adding up this money. I'm like, wow, they're charging me $600 to put a little box over my light. I said, man, I bet you I could probably do that for a way less than that. Well, long story short, a buddy of mine said, man, he was like a little carpenter. He said, man, we ought to try to, flip houses. And I thought, everybody's flipping houses. I said, you know what? I want to do something different, man. I said, I kind of want to maybe build a new house and give somebody a chance to own a new house who otherwise couldn't qualify to buy it because these builders are selling it for so outrageously above what they paid for it.
Okay.
And that's kind of why I started it. So me and a buddy of mine, we went out and we found some land out in LaPorte over here, and I built my first one. But we bought our land using our nickels, pennies, and credit cards, man. And we did it. I mean, we almost burned the house down one time. We did. I mean, the generator caught on fire, and it was on fire next to the house. We were going to the bathtub, throwing water on it, and luckily a neighbor came with a fire extinguisher and turned it off. But
they were
yeah,
kind of,
it was
who
scary.
the hell is over here building these houses, man? This is going to be a problem, right?
Yeah, and you know, we had the usual, somebody breaking our copper pipes, or
Always.
you know, we had a little bit of stuff like that, but you know,
Yeah.
we stuck with it. And at the end of the day, after we sold it, I mean, it was hard, but we made a profit. And I was like, man, I think I could do this again, but I need proper backing. I need a financial backing from somebody who I need to do my sales pitch to somebody who can give me some money to do that.
Now, hold on. Before you go to the financial backing, I want to come back because we talked about this with Crystal Hadnot. We also talked about it with Latoria. In some of the previous episodes we've done, you know, it sounds to me like you had your why, and so your story, which is really your brand, right, was not your marketing, but your brand was, I see what they're charging for this, and it makes me feel some kind of way about the next man who can't afford it because of how much they're charging. And I think I can do it for less and still make a reasonable profit, but make sure that the next man has a roof over his head, something he can be proud of, something he could, or woman, next man or woman can buy this house and be proud of it, but at a better point of entry for most people, which, let's face it, you know, keeps a lot of people out of the ownership world because the cost of getting in the game is too high. So, I mean, am I reading this right? That was your why?
Well, that was my why. You know, and I guess my why was, wow, I built this house and they charged me all this money for it. And I'm sure they made a nice little profit off of me. What if I did the same thing and sold it to a family who couldn't otherwise go to a builder and say, hey, you know, I can't afford a $180,000 house, but I can afford 110, but 110 ain't gonna give me nothing but nothing. But I wanted to give them what they can get in a $180,000 house with everything in it, but just at not that price. So my first house, I think it total, if I remember correctly, I bought the land for $10,000, and it cost me $75,000, a little more this one because my first one cost me $75,000, about $85,000 to build it, and I only sold it for $105,000. Still made a profit. I could have sold it for $130,000, $125,000, but I was like, you know what? And the funny story about that is the lady who bought it from me, and I wouldn't expect it. She came up to me afterwards when we closed, and I went to go show her how everything worked. She says, you know, you're an angel. And I said, really? Why? She goes, because without you in this house, I could have never afforded to buy a new house like this. And everywhere I went, I was turned down. They wanted too much money. And I was like, at the time, I wasn't even thinking about it that way. I was just thinking like, man, I want to make me some money, but I don't want to hit nobody over the head so hard that, you know, I'm gonna get over on them. I just thought, if I can make a little money and you can save some money and you can get in the house that you want, and I'm still happy and we're all happy, and I can keep doing this. And that was my reasoning behind it. And that's why I went ahead with another one. And she was the first person to give me that compliment. I never forgot it.
You know, the thing that's for me, it's like so important about what you just said is you weren't in it for that, right? But really all along you probably were. Like there was really a part of what you were doing that was, I guess the word is benevolent, you know, but maybe I'll replace it with well-meaning. You know, so you literally were trying to do some good, and because of what the good you were trying to do, you know, somebody recognized it and saw it. And I think that's important because when you're out there with your pitch, your elevator pitch, it is a lot easier if you've got a story, a why, something that feels good. Because, you know, sure, everybody wants to make money, but there's a lot of people out there that say, I want to make money doing something good. I don't want anything that's going to be like, you know, essentially sending a message to the world that I'm only about taking. Like I want to be giving at the same time. What's better than that? Profiting off of everybody's gain instead of just your own. So I think that's dope, man. And the way you approach it.
Yeah, and I use that, and I use that analogy in everything I do. Whether it's, you know, I mean, I use it at the casino gambling. I told my wife yesterday when we go gambling, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go, and I'm not trying to win $1 million. It'd be great if I did, but if I can come home with, you know, a little profit, $50, $100, I'm happy. You know, I'm not greedy. You know, I've given money back before, and it's not fun. So I'm okay with just winning a little or whatever. So I kind of just use that analogy in everything. If I can just get a little bit out of it, I'm good. I'm not trying to become a millionaire overnight. I'm not trying to get over somebody, by even when I throw parties, Justin, when I have a promotions party, I would throw parties and I would charge the cheapest to get in there. Like, man, they're only charging $5. I'm like, well, my thing is if I can break even and we all have a good time and I don't lose and we all have fun and maybe put a little bit of money in my pocket, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. I'm just not greedy like that. I think we all win. I think it's like I tell my salespeople at work, hey man, if y'all can sell me advertising, whatever y'all need to do, if I need to work on it, if I got to go meet with the client, if I got to go, rub shoulders with them, if it means them buying and then means staying on longer, that means I'm not only going to make money right then and there, but I'm going to make the money in the long haul because they're going to stay with us longer. So we all going to make money. They're going to make money on the business. We're going to make money bringing advertising in for them, and we all win. So if it's a one-hitter quitter, like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll take their money for $500, do a commercial, and if they win, they win. If they lose, oh well, I got their money. No, I want you to keep winning because you're going to keep spending money, and I'm going to keep making money.
Yeah, and that's
I look at it that way.
I think that's an important distinction as well, because when you look at, like, for instance, with the elevator pitch, an executive summary, somebody that's going into business, whether you're essentially taking money from somebody, what we call, debt financing, which is essentially you borrow money that has to be repaid to a bank. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing it that way, or you could do what's called equity financing or equity debt, equity financing. In this particular case, you'd only be giving ownership of your company. But if you're going out there to somebody that you got to make payments to, or somebody wants equity. So let's say I came to you and said, hey, G-Man, I'm going to put $25,000 into your home building business, but I want 5% or I want 20% of the business. Well, I expect to be repaid my money. It's just through the growth of the company. And if you tell me a story that indicates that your heart is in it, not just your wallet, but your heart, and that the story is something that can be told again and again and again, and the success can be recreated, then there's a higher probability that I'm going to get my money back. And so what we found with a lot of the people, bro, is like when they watch Shark Tank, they hear the people come on and the people give their pitch on Shark Tank. And if you really pay attention, you'll see. And of course, there's things that go on behind the scenes on Shark Tank that we don't know about. So they've already pre-screened a lot of these people, and they've already done some work to know whether or not this person is going to be TV worthy and the presentation is going to make sense, and they'll keep their audience around by watching it. But they've done some background work and know sort of what the profitability is of this. But they're always looking for somebody that's already got a customer, right? Because if you don't have a customer, then we have no way of, saying, okay, this is successful or not. Which brings me to the point that you just made, where you said, look, I had a customer, and the customer said, you're an angel. So I'm curious, when you went to go get financing, or which I'm assuming you did you bring up the fact that you've already had a customer? When you went in?
I brought up a fact that I had sold a house. The guy, and just to kind of retract a little bit, I had saw his yard sign outside, like a business sign. It said, this business is being financed by such and such bank. At the time, it was First Choice Bank. And I said, there's a number on there. I said, man, you know what? I just sold a house. I went through my credit card, my bank accounts. I mean, we literally didn't use nobody's money but our own, and our credit cards. And when I pay everybody back, I said, you know what? There's got to be an easier way. I said, somebody's got to give me a shot. I mean, the worst they can do is tell me no, and I'll just turn right back around and do it again the way I did it, and hopefully just keep building on it. So I ended up calling that number, and the guy said, well, why don't you come in and let's chat? And I thought, wow, I've never done this before. So went into his office and he asked me about the business. I showed him pictures of the house I built. I showed him how much it cost me, what the hard cost was, the profit was. And he was actually kind of surprised that I didn't get more profit out of it than what I did. But I did mention to him, I just said, well, I just felt that, I didn't want to be greedy. I felt the longer that it stayed on the market, because I didn't know houses, eventually they're going to sell, but I didn't know how long it was going to be on the market. So I was scared. I was like, man, do I sell it cheap and get out of it? Or do I try to sell it for a lot of money and just hold on and hit that big prize at the end? I just told myself, you know what? It's done. I just want somebody to move into it, and I want somebody to have a new house. And if it's, and for me, it sold before I was even completed with. I think I just needed a few little touches on it before it was done. And the guy said, well, how much did it cost you to make it? I showed him, and I told him the numbers. I showed him everything. And right away he said, you know what, I like what you're doing. He goes, I think you're in it for the right reason. You know, you weren't trying to go out there and hit somebody over the head and make a huge profit off of them. And I explained to him the reason why I got into it, because when I bought this house, I couldn't believe that they charged me $1,800 to put crown molding in my living room. But it only charged me, and it only charged my guy $200, and it cost me $200 of material and $200 labor, $400 to do the whole living room, and they charged me $1,800.
Yeah.
So I see where their markup was at, and I guess he understood, and he also understood that, you know, the way I was going with it, that, you know, not that I couldn't lose, but you know, that I had my head in the right direction. I knew what I wanted. I wasn't trying to hold on to it for too long. And he explained to me about the whole situation. I had no idea what financing was and how the banks were. I didn't know every time I borrowed money from them, I had to pay them back in interest. Not, you know, it was just a lot that I had to learn, and I learned on the fly, and luckily he walked me through it. So, and it was a success. We did one, we did another one, we did three, and then finally I just kind of backed out in 2009 when I was just doing it by myself. And back to your point earlier when you said, when somebody invests money, they want, you know, 5-10%. I didn't know. So my investor at the time, after I did my first one, he was just buying the land, which gave me like $10,000, and I was giving him 50% of the profit plus all his money back. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like I was giving him 5 or 10%. I just felt that, well, you help me out by buying the lot. The least I can do is give you 50% of what I make. And I did. If he wasn't even in the state, I did everything. I did all the legwork. I did all the negotiating. I did all the inspections. And at the end, I still felt that it was right for me to give him 50%. So we did really good. And although people told me, man, you're crazy, you should give him 10%, 5%. But, you know, I mean, I couldn't have done it without him. So I was okay with it. You know, we all made money. I was okay with it, you know? Well,
you know, you sound like you're realistic. And I think what a lot of people, you know, are not is realistic. And you may be a little bit too fair, you know, in some instances, because you can negotiate a point here, a point there. Maybe you get somebody from 50 down to 45 or 45 to 40 or maybe even 30. But the truth of the matter is there's a risk reward analysis. And so as we're talking to, say, in this particular case with She's the Boss, this CEO development program, you know, is about creating more female CEOs, creating more business owners inside of Houston in the surrounding areas, which is why, by the way, we're putting $20,000 in advertising or marketing dollars on the radio behind 3 different participants or winners in this particular situation. But when you talk about getting financing from someone, when you go to them and give them your elevator pitch or your executive summary, you do need to understand what the risk reward analysis is for them. See, for you, bro, I mean, like you were doing all the work, right? As you said. Mm-hmm. So what were you risking? Right. When you're doing all the work, what's your risk? What do you think?
Well, my risk was just, well, at the time for me, because it was kind of a weird situation because I do the afternoon drive. So I handled everything. My risk for me was, do I have enough time to be able to do this? You know, if I commit to this, am I going to be able to successfully go through with it now that I have somebody banking on me finished and getting their money back to them? So my risk was, if I don't put my 100% into it, then I'm gonna lose. The bank's gonna lose. You know, you know, it was that's how I looked at it at that point about the risk. You know, there was really nobody else involved except for me and the banker. So it was up to me to make sure that I won, because I wanted them to know that, hey, they trusted me to give me their money, that I needed to make sure I came back with the results.
Yeah, but you hit the key point. Like you said, the word time. So, and not to diminish any of the things, you had sweat equity in it. That's what we call it, sweat equity. Oh, yeah. So, you know, it was your muscles, it was your calories being burned, it was your time away from family, it was your time away from
frustrated, everything,
frustration, all of that, right? But you had time to lose. What did the banker have to lose?
The banker had to lose at that point.
Money.
Yeah, sorry, my dog barking. Yeah, but
you got somebody protecting your interest back there. That's good. I hope my dog's doing the same. But the banker had money to lose. And
he definitely did. And you know, taking a chance on somebody he didn't even know.
Yes, and so understanding risk reward. If you go into one of these situations and you don't have projections inside of your executive summary in your pitch, where you're saying, okay, look, here is what you stand to gain. But there's also, from their perspective, anybody that's already got money. Because let's face it, man, if you're going out there trying to get funding from somebody, the reason you're going to the person to get funding is because you know they've got the funding. I mean, that's the way it works. You're not going to go to, to put it like a woman, she's got a business going and she's got a broke friend. She ain't going to a broke friend for funding. She might go to a broke friend for time, like contribute some time, help me out, help me make this or help me research this or whatever for time. But the risk reward there is, the friend's just giving her time. If everybody loses, the friend goes and spends her time somewhere else. But when you're going to a bank, you're essentially saying, risk, put your money at risk. And when a bank puts their money at risk, it's because they can. And the reason they can is because they put their money at risk before. Or if an investor can put their money at risk, it's because they've put their money at risk before. And if you've put your money at risk before, you've lost before. And if you lost before, then you've become smarter about loss and you insulate yourself against loss. And I don't know that people understand that when you go sometimes to an investor, to someone with an opportunity, because that's what it is. You were giving them an opportunity to get involved with something and make more money by putting their money at risk. But when you go to them with that, sometimes they're not playing the game of, I want to make more money. They're playing the game of, I want to protect the money I've got. And that's a completely different mindset for some of these players out there in the big money game. They essentially look and say, what are the chances that I'm going to lose? And every fifth deal, maybe they do, which means deal 1 through 4 has got to be very profitable because it's got to make up for deal 5, which is a loss. So I think your story is excellent, bro. Like it's right on point with what a lot of these women face. I think the problem is, as we found out, is a lot of these women don't even get into the room, to present their story in order to get it heard. And so we feel like the executive summary could be one of the strongest elements of that, because most people, like when you went to the banker, you were going to get a check. And I get the sense that you were kind of going, hey, I need some help because I have done what 82% of Americans do. I self-finance. That's what most startups do. They self-finance. So a very small percentage, less than 20% of the businesses that are started in this country go to the bank or end up getting financing from somebody. We glorify that. It's romanticized. We make it seem like that's what happens. Everybody gets this big old check. But with the executive summary of the pitch, elevator pitch, sometimes it's really not about getting the check as much as it's about getting them to take a second look at what you got.
And that's what I wanted to do, because I knew that I didn't have, I went in there with my blueprints. I had my plan laid out, how I wanted to do it, so but I had no idea how it worked. I didn't know that they give you money when something was complete. So if you needed money for concrete, they wanted to see that it was ready for concrete before they give you the money. So you had to pay for the guy to get it ready. It was a lot of, so I learned a lot. And like I said, I couldn't have done it without him. And I'm sure he was thinking the same thing. I'm going to take a chance on this guy. And I don't even know, but he used his own money, he used his own credit cards. He sold it, paid everybody back that he paid back. And I think he looked at all that as well. So,
yeah, you definitely have credibility. And I don't think that it's that other people out there don't. But I think you probably, more so than you knew it, you have maybe some natural business acumen. You study things. And as much as you said, when I gave the example at the beginning of the episode or show here, I said, would you go walk across that empty dance floor and ask somebody to dance? You said no, but you sure as hell carried your tail down to that bank and asked them for money. So, I
was shaking. I ain't gonna lie, I was shaking too. I mean, my brother-in-law told me one time, scared money don't make money. So go out there and ask for it. If they do, good luck. If they don't, then you got to try to find another avenue. So that's kind of what I did. So And the funny thing you talk about Shark Tank, about pitches, and I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but the guy who invented the Ring doorbell actually went on Shark Tank and was turned down. Yeah. And he was turned down and he kept going. Like you said, you get a lot of no's. He kept going. And then now look at him, he's probably a billionaire by now. And I remember one of the guys on Shark Tank said, do I regret not taking that deal and making $100 million profit off of him? Yeah, but I had to learn to live with it, So it goes with both ends.
And that one for me, if you play Monday morning quarterback on a lot of the people that go in to get financing and get turned down, is you ask yourself, was it a bad presentation that was received in the right way, or was it an excellent presentation that was poorly received? And so, there's a lot of little things at play when you're talking to somebody. One of the things I learned as a sales rep is body language. So when I'm talking to somebody if I'm talking to somebody, and people are always going to be defensive because let's face it, most of the time people are looking for a reason to tell you no and get you out of their face. They don't want to hear your elevator pitch. 9 times out of 10, somebody's got something else to do. In that particular situation, though, Shark Tank, they're all conditioned to receive the pitch. That's what they're there for. They take in pitches. But for whatever reason, that pitch didn't come across the right way. And I don't know. I could go back and watch the episode, but you have to look at body language. And some guys are poker, men and women are poker face. Like Barbara Corcoran, you can't read her. You see them taking notes the entire time. You don't know whether they're interested. But if I'm talking to somebody and they do this while I'm talking, I change the subject. I head in another direction because I can see it. Okay. But if I'm talking to somebody, they do this, then I know they're interested in what I'm talking about. But the problem with doing an elevator pitch that you don't have completely memorized is you use a certain amount of your brain capacity. Like you've only got, even this big ass head that I've got up here, there's only so much power up there that can, machines that can operate at the same time. So if I'm using this to try to figure out what I'm going to say next, then I'm not using this to watch that body language. And I'd rather be using this to watch that body language because I've got what I'm saying memorized, like the ABCs or like the Pledge of Allegiance, or a Michael Jackson song. Like I can say it while I tie my shoes or sing it while I drive the car. I can do 2 things at once. A lot of people go in with their elevator pitch, not knowing what they're going to say, not having it memorized. And so because of that, they spend a lot of their energies or burn calorie trying to focus on what they're saying rather than focus on what they're saying is meaning to the person that's receiving it. And so I spent a lot of time, man, trying to learn body language. And when I saw something that I felt like was magnetic in the person I was talking to, then I gave them more of whatever that was to see if that's where it led them. But I think that what you did for whatever reason in front of that banker, like it worked, dog, and he loved it. So that's fantastic. One of the things we want to try to do today is get this, sort of what the elevator pitch, the elements of an elevator pitch up, the executive summary, so the people, ladies can look at them and essentially make sure that that's what they've got. Just so people are clear, this is a requisite part of, or required part of the contest. We're giving away 20 grand, right, to 3 different businesses. All right.
That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And an elevator pitch is essentially the same as first impression, right? Yeah.
I mean, you're doing those for people, like, I guess you market for people on the station, and I've heard yours, man. You always sound like you are one of the users of the product. I mean, are you always a user of? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Because
it's anywhere I go. I mean, I'm repping my hand. I mean, some people work where they work because they have to work to support their family. Some people work because they love what they do, and it's been a dream job of mine, and that's why I've never taken it for granted. Everywhere I go, people say, "Man, you're always repping the box." Hey, man, that's what pays my bills. That's what helped me raise my kids and let them have the things that I do and the things that I had. And I just couldn't work for somebody and be miserable. I had to do something else, and this company is where I'm happy.
Okay. But I mean, like when you go out there and rep a brand, for instance, when you're a spokesperson for a company, you're doing sort of like a read or whatever, you always, for me, like it's extremely believable. But the sense that I get is because you either really believe in the product, you're a professional, or both. And I guess what I would say is that with the pitch, you've got to you got to really believe in what you're doing in order for it to resonate. And when we talk about giving $20,000 away, man, they're going to people, they're going to get the help from folks like y'all who can maybe do a read, or, we'll have the commercials running. We're going to help them produce the commercials and help them get those commercials up on air. I think there's a chance that they're going to get some business from it. Based on
absolutely,
so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's vital. I tell people all the time, I said, I don't know if you ever heard Mattress Mac talk or speak, but he mentioned one time, he said, I moved to Houston with $5,000 in my pocket. The last 5,000, I put it in advertising, and it's worked ever since. And I've never stopped ever since. That's kind of like with IJustGotHit.com. You guys keep advertising because it's, you're always going to find somebody who needs you or doesn't know about you or something, but you got to keep hitting them. And I tell advertisers all that time, don't come on our show and expect to sell 20 cars on one remote and not come back again. I mean, you got to keep consistent with it. And
Yeah.
$20,000 is a lot of money to be consistent, and definitely get some business out of that for sure.
Yeah, let's see. Love this. No, okay, so Noel said it's easier to say no because people are unfamiliar or uncomfortable. I like to say be comfortable being uncomfortable, anti-complacent. The worst they can say is no. Yeah, that's a good one there.
The worst you can say is no. All they can say is, okay, thank you. You can say thank you, walk out and go to the next one and see, pitch somebody else.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, look, man, we're going to get these up. The elements of an executive summary, an elevator pitch today. We'll have it on the website. The website is, then go to y'all's website, obviously, right? And that's
theboxhouston.com.
Yeah, and the rules are there. And I think that's important. So we want people to actually make sure that they read the rules of this, because there's no way to win if you don't understand the rules. So you got to follow the instructions. And part of the instructions is understanding that this is a step-by-step process. So we've given people various elements of the business plan, and today is executive summary. And once they get through the executive summary part of this, then they can go and turn in this business plan and have a chance to win $20,000 in advertising on the box. So that is very, very important. That people
that's a blessing. It's a lot of money, man. I don't think people really understand how much life-changing that money can be to somebody's business. I mean, that is life-changing money. People that want to advertise and you have $20,000 at your expense. I mean, it's just you just have no idea how great that can be for your business.
Well, and I don't think it would have done any good for us to sit out here and say, well, we've seen a lack of Black female CEOs, Black female bosses in our community, and not put money behind Black female CEOs and Black female bosses. It would have been
right.
Disingenuous. So it's one thing to say, well, yeah, I support Black female business owners. It's another thing to say, no. I'm going into the wallet, deep into the wallet with $20K for 3 different Black female CEOs or business owners to make sure that we're actually developing that. So that's what the Building Her program is about. And so I'm hoping that from this, we can try to get some of those ladies to submit. I think we have like 35 women that have gone to buildingher.com and filled out, said they want to enter. So, but read the rules and make sure you follow them. And we'll have a checklist up for y'all today for the things that you need to do to make sure that executive summary is there. And I think we can probably turn this into something hot.
Oh,
I'm glad you shared that story, man. I'm really glad you shared that, bro.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time, and I kind of want. I know I told you off the air about how it came back to try to bite me, but I didn't let it faze me. I was telling Justin that after I built 4 or 5 houses and sold them, the last house that I built, I tried to do the same thing, and this guy kept telling me, "Oh, well, you got to help me with closing costs. I can't afford it." I'm like, "Okay, I'll keep doing it. I'll give you more." "Oh, he needs more money. And I was looking at my profits go down, but I thought, well, I'm still okay. He's trying to support his family and get his family in the house. And long story short, my neighbor next door, every time I built the house, I always go to the neighbor and say, "Hey, I'm building this house for my sister, and can you help me watch out for it?" In the very end, I would say, "Oh, my sister couldn't do it, so I didn't sell it," but it was just because I wanted to make sure they watched out for me.
Yeah.
And he calls me about 8 months later and says, "How much do you want for your house?" I said, "Man, I sold that thing 8 months ago." He said, "No, there's been a for sale sign outside for the last 8 months." It's like, "No." So I called my realtor and said, "Man, something's up." He called me back and says, "You're not going to believe this." He goes, "But the guy that bought your house was an investor. He made you pay all that money for closing costs. All he did was go in there, put mini blinds on it, and put it for $30,000 more than what you sold it to him for." But it ended up backfiring on him because he had a mortgage for 8 months. So he probably made, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but I'm sure he lost quite a bit of money in that mortgage. And I learned my lesson and he learned his lesson. But the lesson that I learned was, just make sure it's a fair price. Make sure you're being fair. You're not trying to be greedy.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I learned. I mean, I wouldn't change anything. I probably would just make sure I looked at everything, dot the I's and cross the T's, and make sure I was Yeah, and make sure I know exactly what I'm getting into. But it was a lesson learned, and I learned, but I wouldn't change it.
Which is a great segue into Thursday's episode. We're talking about the professional services side. So the lawyers that you hire or get involved, whether it be for a trademark, whether it's a copyright, whether it's for a patent, whether it's for a contract, agreements, all that kind of stuff, all the professional services. So an accountant, because I'm sure, at some point in time, you probably said, man, I'm making money. You know who's going to come knocking on your door if you're making money for their cut? Good old Uncle Sam. And the two things that are we can't do anything about: death, can't do anything about that, it's coming. Taxes, can't do anything about that, they're coming. And so I was always taught, set some money aside for that tax bill. That was what the OG told me, is like, put some money aside. Yeah, you're making a profit, but right now, honestly, man, I guess just to set the tone for Thursday's discussion, if I make $1, literally right now, 42, 40, 43, 44 cents of that dollar goes to taxes.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Right? Because even as a consumer, you're going to pay 8%. So if I go out and spend that money, then I'm paying 8% on it, tax. And so if you're charged at, say, 30, 36, 37, 38% plus another 8, now you're, let's say you're 45% of every dollar, 45 cents of every dollar is going to Uncle Sam. Same thing when you're in business. As a business owner, you have to be smart about, how you set up your taxes and how you set up your savings, how you set up your investments, how you set up anything that you can literally put out there as a deduction against what you have to pay Uncle Sam. And a lot of people wait until it's too late. They got to pay that first bill or two before they realize, man, I should have hired an accountant. So Thursday, we want to talk to people about getting some of those things out of the way up front with their business and make sure that Uncle Sam don't come knocking. And if he does, you've already got the money set aside and it doesn't prevent you from continuing to invest. So I think that'll be a good one. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you for having me on, man. It's always a blessing and a pleasure to be on here with you, man. For those that are just tuning in, you can always text the word BOSS, BOSS, to 24042. Get all the information on, building her, and she's the boss, the whole nine. $20,000, man. It's. I'm telling you, that is a blessing for somebody's business, and it could get somebody started to the next being the next millionaire. Yeah. I mean, I look at it that way. That $20,000 can be the next $1 million for you.
No doubt. And at the very least, we got more Black female CEOs, and that's kind of, it's one of the things we really, I'll take just women of color everywhere, like just in leadership roles, CEO roles. But in this particular case, it started because we were talking about the lack of Black women in Fortune 500 corporation CEO level jobs. At the time we started, there was one when we conceived this particular program. Now there's 2. And so that's good, but we could do better, and we could do better all the way around. So I like what we're doing, and I'm glad that you contributed, man, your time today. Risk reward for you was obviously some time, but also the risk is if we don't do this, we may not ever change the world, man. So thank you for working with me to try to change this thing. Let's make this place a little better than the way we came into it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Anytime you need me, brother, I'm here. I'm a phone call away, man. Anytime. So
back at you, brother. Be good, man. Thank you for your time.
I'll be on the air to y'all today on the air 2 to 7, y'all. We'll see y'all later. Dustin, be safe.
All right, G, man. Be good.